What is the difference between local storage and session storage?
Local storage and session storage both are browser storage. Local storage data persists until it is deleted manually, whereas session storage data gets deleted whenever the user deletes, I mean, not deletes, closes the tab. Local storage is also called local storage for your browsers. It can save up to 10 MB of data. On the other hand, session storage can also do the same thing. It can store 10 MB of data, but it's session based, as the name suggests. It is session based, and it will be deleted after closing your browser.
And why is React so popular?
There are so many reasons of React popularity. The first and foremost is it uses the virtual DOM. So whenever the data changes in the UI, it actually compares the data, and it only updates the part of API, part of UI which actually needs to update entire instead of re-rendering the entire UI, which makes it quite performant. It has one-way binding, so you can pass the data from parent to child only. I know there are ways to pass data from child to parent also, but that is not recommended. So one-way binding makes debugging really easy, so the developer can actually debug it very easy because the data is data flows in the one direction. Then in React, everything is a component. So if we take an example of let's say Flipkart, then we can break Flipkart into multiple components. We can have a button component, a search bar component, image section component, and the good thing is all these components can be reused, and it is easy to learn. And another great thing about React is it uses JSX, so which is HTML like syntax. So anyone who knows HTML and JavaScript can easily write this JSX. So these are the things which makes React really popular.
Okay, tell me what folder structure you have used in your projects.
Okay, so the folder structure in SRC folder, I like to create multiple folders like container, components, store, helpers, some config, or maybe some hooks and all. If I talk about these folders individually, then inside store, I like to write a Redux logic here. So one folder for action, one folder for reducers, right? And then some middleware connections and all. Inside the hook, we can write some custom hooks or whatever we want to do with hooks, we can do in the hooks. And in helpers, we might create some reusable methods. For example, if there is a requirement to send an email to user, so we can, so instead of writing the logic again and again in the components where it is required, we can write that logic in the helper component. And wherever it is required, we can just import it from helpers file, and we can use the send email functionality. And in the container, I like to store the files which know about the state and which can access the data from Redux. And in the components, I like to store the files which are just presentational, basically the dumb components. And then we can also have some test files inside, parallel to the file itself. So if we have file a.js, then we can have a.test parallel to it. Then we can have some styles as well parallel to these files. So this is the structure which I have used.
And what is React fragment?
React fragment, we can say they are just empty tags. So if we have multiple children in the render method of any component, we can wrap those child component into a single React fragment. If you don't use React fragment, then React will throw an error that it requires a parent, because React can, in the return method of React, we can have a single element only. So to accomplish that, we can use React fragment.
Nice. And differentiate state and props.
State is mutable, whereas props are immutable. State can be used for rendering dynamic changes within the component. So we can have a component at the top, we can store the state, whereas props are used to communicate between the components. So if we want to pass some data from component A to B, we can pass that using props. Now, stateless stateless components cannot have state, whereas stateless component can have probes. Probes, the major use of probes is it makes the component reusable. So if you have a button component and we pass a probe to it, let's say a variant, then by using that variant probe, we can write some custom logic inside the button component. And now whenever required, we can just pass the variant name, maybe primary, secondary, and our button will look different. So that's how it makes it reusable, whereas state cannot make component reusable. State holds information about the component, whereas probes allows you to pass data from one component to another.
Okay, Rahul, tell me, have you used hooks?
Yes, I have used hooks.
Okay. Differentiate use memo and use context.
Use memo and use context, they are kind of similar. There is only one difference which I see. Use memo is used to uh, avoid some complex calculations again and again. So if you write some logic inside the use memo and pass a dependency array to it, and next time, whenever we need to calculate the data, that logic, then instead of recalculating it, use memo will return the previously computed value. So basically, it memoizes the previously computed value instead of recalculating again and again, right? That's why it is because it memoizes the data. That's why it is called use memo. Whereas use callback avoids the re-rendering of the child component. How? Let's say we have a method in the parent component, and in the child component we are passing that method as a probe to the child component. Now every time your parent component re-renders, by default React creates a new instance of that callback which is passed to the child. But using use callback, this can be avoided because use callback does not let React create a new instance every time unless it is really required. So basically, both of these hooks are there to perform, to help React in performing well and fast.
Okay. What is Redux and how it works?
Redux is used to manage the state at the top level. So it has a single store which knows a lot about your application. It can store a lot of states of your application at the top of basically your application. And now, if any component want to read that state from that store, uh, the connection can be created between the component and the store. And the good thing about Redux is it has a very clear flow. It has action and reducer. Actions are basically whenever a user performs some event, let's say they click on a button, then in the action type and a payload is sent. And then there is a reducer with a switch case, which watches for that specific type of action. And whenever it gets the payload, it performs some logic and updates the store, right? And there is also this Redux developer tools. By using that, we can debug the Redux applications really easily, because we can clearly see that, okay, this section has been called and this has made this change to our application. So we can see the entire store in this Redux dev tool.
And have you used TypeScript?
Yes, I have used TypeScript, but not much. I have the basic knowledge of TypeScript.
Okay. So what is the difference between type and interface?
Since I have worked very less with TypeScript, I can uh, give, I think, one or two differences only. One thing is TypeScript and interfaces are quite similar. Both are used to define the object shapes and the function declarations. Um, so interfaces are basically a way to describe data shapes. for example, an object. And whereas type is used to define unions, tuples, intersections, etc. And there, what other difference I can think of is their syntax is also different. Interface is like interface keyword and then the name and then the object. Inside that we have key value. Value key is anything and value is the type. Whereas in the type we can use that equal to sign, let's say type this is equal to something something. That is what I can think of now right now.
Okay, nice. We have a coding round also, so please open your code sandbox.
Okay, sure. Let me open the code sandbox. Okay, it's open.
So differentiate map and for each with an example.
How to differentiate for each and map? Basically, for each does not return anything, whereas map returns a new array with returned element. And whereas for each mutates the original array, but map does not. And the example I can take is, let's say there is a num array. Here's 1, 2, 3. These are the elements in it. And I want to double each element of this array. So let's do it using map first. So for that, I'm gonna say result is equal to num array dot map, then element. I'll use the arrow function here into 2. Okay. And now let's print this result of map. So if I go to console, okay, so here you can see it is 2, 4, 6. It has doubled it. Okay, if I try the same thing with, uh, let's say result 2 with for each, num array dot for each, and for each takes a value, index, and an array. Okay, so let me write value, index, and array here, and it's inside for each. So let's write it like this, and an arrow function again, and then I can write this array at index I is equal to whatever value is there into 2. Okay, so here also I'm doubling the values, and if I console log it right now, resource, not resource, result 2, then I cannot differentiate them. So let me write s in the string here so that we can differentiate. We can clearly see that what's going on. And here I'm going to write res2 and res2. Okay. So now you can see in res, which is coming from the map method, the value has been doubled, whereas res2 is undefined, which means this for each does not return anything. It returns undefined. Okay. Also, if I print the num array here, console.log the num array, then you see it is 2, 4, 6. Num array is 2, but it should not be 2, 4, 6 because map does not mutate the original array. Okay, because for each also, okay, for each has also run, which has muted these. So let me comment this for each for the time being. Okay, now you see the result is 2, 4, 6, 8. The value has been doubled by the map method, and the num array, which is your original array, is still 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now if I comment map and uncomment for each, okay, and print num array here as well, Now see, result is undefined because for is not written anything, whereas num array has become 246. Previously it was 123, but now it is 246 because for each mutates the original array.
Okay. So what is this keyword? Can you write an example of it?
This keyword is refers to an object which is executing the current piece of the code. To write an example, let me delete everything here. And to write an example for this keyword, I'm going to take an object. Let's call it a person object. And let's say name is Rahul. And then is 27. I can write a method, let's say print name and age, or rather I'll go with print info. Okay, it would be a function. And now inside this function, this keyword will refer to this object. So for example, I can write console.log this dot. Okay, let me write a string template here. My name is this dot name and is dollar this dot age. And now when I call this method print info, it should print this dot name as Rahul and age is 27. So in the console, you can see it is my name is Rahul and age is 27.
Okay. Next question is create a age input box and display error message if entered age is less than 18.
Okay, for React, okay, let me open a new code sandbox for that. It's a bit slow today. Mhm. Okay, so to create a new input box, what I'm going to do is, okay, so for this example, I'm just using this app component only. I could create multiple reusable components and all that. But for this, I'm just going to create the entire logic here only. So let's say we have input tag here. And so we want to have two state, one to store the value entered by the user and the other one to store the error. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is import React, then use state from React, and here I'm going to write text set text use state. Initial value would be empty string, and I also want to store the error message. So the error would be always same, so don't need to store it in a state. I can just hard code that, maybe outside of the function, somewhere here, the error message is must be greater than 18. Okay, full stop should go inside actually. Here's a semicolon is required. And then what I can do is um, okay, I need one more state actually to check whether there is an error or not. Is error and set error use state and initial value will be false. And below the input, I can write is error, then display error message, otherwise null. So that is for the error part. Now, when the user actually types the value here, so first of all, we need the value, which would be text. And whenever user enters anything, this on change event will be triggered. And I can create a new method called handle text input. And let's create this method now, conf handle text input. Here it will get an event. And what I can do is, okay, first of all, let me quickly check what I'm getting in the event dot target dot value in the console. If I type something here, on change listener to be a function. Okay, actually it should be a single brackets. Now if I type something here, I can see the value here, but it is not persisting it. For that, I can write set text e dot target dot value. Now it should persist the data. So if I type 3, 4 here, okay, it is persisting that. Great. And now I can check if e dot target dot value is less than 18. I'm gonna say set error is true. Okay. So it will set the error to true if the age is less than 18 and it will display the error. So if I make it 3, it says age must be greater than 18. And if I make it greater than 18, okay, actually it should go away. For that, what I'm going to do is basically I need to reset it. So whenever the user enters any value, I can reset it, set error to false. With that, it should be fixed. So now if I type 1, 2, 3, okay, let me type 23, there it is gone. If it is 2, there it is there. If I type 5, 25, there it is gone. So that's how we can achieve this.